Hello, and welcome back to Transformative Talks. So, we're going to be doing a little solo project today. I am really excited to start all these different series that I'm working on because within the holistic and wellness community, there are so many facets and so many ways to tackle what you have going on. There's so many modalities, there's nutrition, there's mental health counseling, there's body work, there's all of it. So, I'm breaking this down into several different series. So today we are going to be doing the first episode in the Beyond Bodywork series, which I would say out of all of the series, I have the most experience and education in this realm. I am a massage therapist by trade with a background of different certifications in bodywork modalities. So that I feel is definitely my niche. So I would love to share today with you some different things about the Beyond Bodywork series. Beyond Bodywork is a series dedicated to exploring the many facets and modalities of massage and bodywork. We explore how bodywork is not just a treat, it can be a preventative and a wonderful holistic support. Education is key when searching for the right massage and the right provider for you. So join us as we delve into the big, beautiful world of bodywork. And it really is amazing how many different modalities and ways that you can either passively or actively work on your body. So it felt very appropriate that today, because of the recent passing of John Barnes, that I talk a little bit about Barnes style myofascial release. This is something that I have done several seminars in. It's the groundwork for how I now practice my body work, my massage, my business. Basically, it's how I approach body work in general. It really changed the way that I looked at body work. Okay, so I will start off by telling you a little bit about who I am, what I do, what I specialize in. So I'm Chelsea Gilbert, licensed massage therapist, and I would call myself an intuitive practitioner as well. I've been working in this industry for around 10 years at this point. Throughout those years, I have definitely refined and changed how I work with my clients and the type of work that I do. And that has been hugely influenced by Barnes Myofascial Release. So I started off my journey with an associate's degree from Ivy Tech. I went into working with chiropractors and then kind of a more spa-like environments. And once I went into my first Barnes seminar, it completely changed how I viewed massage. And it really felt like it was what was missing. I absolutely loved doing massage for people. I'm very like a touch-oriented person. It always felt really good to be able to make people feel good just by using my hands. I always thought that was an amazing thing. But I was getting very frustrated with the environment of people kind of coming in with the same thing over and over again. And we weren't finding any resolution. It was just like you come in once a month, you feel good for a little bit, you feel good for maybe a few days after, and you come back with the exact same thing. And the way my brain works, I really am solution oriented. I like to figure out the why of things. So when I went to my first Barnes seminar, it all really clicked for me in the way that they were looking at the whole body, the whole person, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually. Something definitely shifted in my brain. And I really started to change the way that I was working with people. So instead of someone coming in with a shoulder issue saying, well, I can feel how this issue is attached to this stuff going on in your hips. And through the years, working with people, specifically focusing on myofascial release, we tend to work through layers. And a lot of times people don't even realize all of the dysfunction that is actually going on that is a catalyst to where the pain that they're feeling is. It's not necessarily happening at the shoulder or at the neck or in the low back. It's connection with all the other fascial restrictions that they have going on in their body. And it's really amazing to see people connect the dots and also connect that, hey, this is, tied with this emotion, or this is tied with this thing that happened in my life. So it was really just fascinating going to the Barnes seminars, the first one. And then after that, I was hooked. The Barnes Myofascial Release has really shaped my practice. It has really shaped my intentions and my purpose. So I was very lucky in the massage program that I was in at IB Tech in Fort Wayne. The teachers there were very encouraging and very open with talking about different modalities. And one of the modalities that they talked about, which some of the teachers had background in Barnes Myofascial Release, they talked about that quite a bit. And I was very intrigued. So I believe it was not my last semester that I was there, it was the semester before I I finished, that I went to my first Barnes seminar. Now, the cool thing about these seminars is it's not just going and having lectures and learning that way. It's very hands-on. So we have a lecture portion, and there's a portion where you partner up with different bodies and you work on them, they work on you. So it's not just the intellectual part of learning. You're not just absorbing information, you're somatically feeling what's happening. You're feeling the technique and you're practicing the technique. So in that way, also you're getting work done while you're there. So it's like 3 days of intensive work being done on you. So if you've never really had myofascial release before and you go into that environment and you get worked on that much for that many days, you're also learning about yourself. You're diving through different layers of yourself, things that you didn't realize were even there. Um, and it really sparked my healing journey as well. I was already kind of working on myself when I went into that, but it opened up a whole new avenue for me to go down with my healing. I very much understood that at that point, the things that I was holding on to mentally were very much stuck in my body. That's that's a whole nother story. I might come on here and do an episode for the Healing Journeys series just based on that. So there was that aspect of it as well. It's definitely one of those modalities. Once you feel it, once you experience it, you really see the value in it. It's a little bit out there, I think, for some people when you start to explain it to them. It's a hard concept to grasp if you haven't felt or experienced it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the fascia is. I do a lot of consults for people when they come in, especially if they've never had this work done before, because there is an education portion of it. I think that's very important for people to understand what it is we're working on, why we're working on it, what it feels like, what the experience is like, really understanding the why of why we're doing this type of work. And I'm actually going to uh, pull some quotes from this book here. So, what is the fascia? And this is quote: "The fascia is a tough connective tissue that spreads throughout the body in a three-dimensional web from head to foot functionally without interruption. It has been estimated that if every structure of the body except the fascia were removed, the body would retain its shape." So sometimes I describe this to people like if you imagine, pantyhose, if you were to take 50 pairs of pantyhose and stuff them all into each other and kind of stand it up, it would stand up as a whole and look like a pair of legs. That's very similar to the fascia, but if you could imagine in between the pantyhose, there's fibers connecting all of that as well. And then if you were to pull on, one side of it, you're going to visually see how everything else kind of follows that. That is very similar to how fascia behaves. It's a connective tissue system in our bodies that runs from head to toe through everything, around everything, down to the cellular level, if you can imagine that. So, surrounding each of your cells on that microscopic level, there's fascia helping to give it shape and structure. Fascia also acts as a shock absorber. So, if you think about if you're in a car accident, something runs into your chest doesn't just collapse and keep that shape from the force. It comes back out. So the fascia is there to also absorb shock from physical traumas. It is also connected to the nervous system. It's actually connected to every system in the body very, very closely. But in the type of work I do specifically, I do a lot of nervous system focus when it comes to the fascia. So there's that physical aspect of the fascia, how, physically in our bodies, the function that it has, but also it connects and communicates with our nervous system and our brain. So when it comes to how you hold yourself, the things that your body remembers, the events that your body remembers, whether it's physical, whether it's intensely emotional, the fascia will store information in your body. So there's that aspect of it too. This is an interesting one. In addition, loose tissue contains fluid that serves as a transport medium for cellular elements of other tissues, blood, and lymph. In this manner, fascia also fills a nutritive function. So, whether or not your cells and tissues are able to get the proper nutrition and hydration, the fascia plays a part in that as well. So that's a quote from this book as well. So they also talked about in the seminars how fascia is partially collagenous and partially elastic in nature. So I believe they said the ratio was about 80-20, like 80% collagenous and 20% elastic. So the elastic part of it allows the fascia to move and stretch in the moment, but go back to kind of like the shape that it retains. The collagenous component of it helps it actually keep the shape. So when we're doing myofascial release on someone and we're doing those long holds and we're giving the body time to let go and process around what we're doing, we're tapping into that collagenous component of it. So another great aspect of myofascial release is it's not just focusing on the pain points or the issues that you come in when you do a session. It is very much about looking at the person globally, the whole body, holistically, and creating balance in the whole being, not just saying, oh, this part of me hurts, so let's focus on this. So, personally, for me, when I do my sessions, if someone's coming in with something specific, yeah, might spend a little bit more time there, but a lot of times I'm branching out and finding and feeling the areas of restriction that everything is connected to. So, understanding a little bit about the nature of fascia can kind of also just with people coming in, if you think about it and you go, think about all the pain points in your body, think about where you have restrictions, think about where you have issues. And sometimes just the awareness that the fascial system is connected in that way and is so deep in the body and affects everything, you can kind of start making your own connections and conclusions with your own body that I understand how all of this is connected. I understand how the pain in my hip is connected to my headaches. I understand why when my depression flares up, my whole body hurts. It's that sort of understanding, I think, that can kind of empower us and allow us to take what we have and work with it instead of feeling like I'm just in pain all the time or I have all of these issues that I just feel like I am a slave to. And it gives us the ability to tap into that system for ourselves when we start to understand it. So, in terms of how we do myofascial release, it's a lot of compression and stretching of the tissue and a lot of holding as well. So, with myofascial release, we're not using any lotions or oils. It's skin to skin. There's definitely an aspect of it from the practitioner standpoint, or if you're working on yourself, there's a very specific feel to when you're tapping into the fascia. So, sort of learning how to palpate that is an important aspect of it. Once we are able to feel into a fascial restriction, whatever hold we're doing it for around 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes, sometimes even more. And then as things begin to let go, there's a wonderful fluid movement that occurs that in the Barnes technique, they call it unwinding. So sometimes it's on a small scale, just under your hands. Sometimes it's on a big scale, and people are actually kind of moving through different restrictions. And as they do, things start to open up. So again, myofascial release is something that you can tap into for yourself. I try to do this a lot. And I tell people too, it's kind of like slow motion Tai Chi almost, but it's more organic movement. You're not going through specific poses like in yoga or Tai Chi or something like that, but you are tapping into your body and going through slow motion movements and finding, well, I feel when I get to this point, I can feel a restriction here, or I feel something pulling in a different area of my body. And then you engage the fascia you can do something called telescoping, which is elongating the tissue. And then you just wait. You wait and you see what's happening. The feeling that you get from it is it's everyone's going to perceive it a little bit differently. I know for me, I'm pretty aware of everything that's happening in my body. Just finding this restriction in my arm, telescoping it, I'm feeling it in my jaw, in the side of my neck. I'm actually feeling a lot of heat right now just by engaging this. I guess I didn't really plan with this to start doing this, but it's a good demo, right? So I'm feeling it in my hands now. A lot of people, when they're receiving myofascial release, will experience sensations, different feelings, different sensations in different areas of their body. It doesn't necessarily just have to be where they're being worked on. So you may be getting work done on your shoulder and you might feel it in your hip. You might feel it in your leg. You might feel it in your toes. Sensations can range from temperature differences. You might feel heat. You might feel cold. I just felt something open up down here. You may feel tingling. You may feel like a buzzing or a zapping sensation. You may feel pulsing. Again, it depends on the person. I've noticed that everyone's body, my neck just adjusted. I notice everybody's body processes a little bit differently. Some people are very emotional processors, so that can be a component of experiencing myofascial release as well. When you're going in and having fascial work done, you may experience different emotions come up. You may be able to connect them with something. A lot of times it's just, you're like, why am I feeling this way? So with fascial restrictions, they can hold, emotions and memories and things like that. There's where that's connected to the nervous system and the brain. It's very tied in with the subconscious. Yeah. I'm feeling this, just to check in. I'm feeling this in my chest, underneath my jaw. Feels like my body's wanting to go this way. So I'm going to kind of take it this way a little bit. So yeah, back to emotions. We can feel a different range of emotions. I've had people feel like happiness and joy. Just sometimes it's whatever you weren't able to express in that moment will kind of come up and process. Sometimes very specific memories will come up. Sometimes they don't seem connected to anything that we're doing in the moment, but people will be like, I'm thinking about my grandma right now for some reason, or oh, I'm thinking about a birthday party I had when I was 5. It doesn't have to make sense what you're experiencing. It doesn't have to make logical sense because your subconscious and your body don't operate in that logical manner. I definitely feel like this is something that I need to work on a little bit more. So yeah, it feels like my arm's wanting to go back. I can feel this opening up and kind of see my hands twisted a little bit. So yeah, there's a wide range of experiences, sensations, and things. Honestly, the majority of people that I work on go in and out of a light sleep. It's kind of like a meditative state almost. Like you're aware, but you're kind of in and out of it. A little bit like a dream state. Not quite. You have a little bit more control than that. And then there's some people that do a lot of twitching. Twitching seems to be a really common thing as well. I almost kind of associate that with like a nervous system discharge because when you get into the subtle energetics of it, the things that are held in your body, it's just energy that hasn't been allowed to process and release from the physical body. So now this is a really good example of what allowing your body to unwind looks like when you're doing something for yourself. And I'm not planning out like what direction or what kind of going back here. My hand's kind of doing this thing. Just wanted to show that as well. I'm not planning out the movements that I'm doing, or I'm just kind of going with what it feels like my body wants me to do. So again, it's very organic. It feels good. It feels natural. It feels like a nice deep stretch almost, but it feels a little bit different than just stretching. If you've never had myofascial release done before, you'll notice the difference in feeling. Like if you start doing this on yourself, you almost have to have that experience of, I'm going to shake that out. Otherwise, I'll end up on the ground, rolling around, letting my body unwind. So shaking is also a really good way to kind of get your body to let go of some stuff. So yeah, that was a little example. Didn't plan on doing that, but that's the way that went. So that's interesting. Again, sometimes it's just something it's very unfamiliar to people, so they're not really quite sure what to do with it. So sometimes just demonstrating like that and saying, "Hey, this is how we do things." And then sometimes, during sessions, if there are people that go into an unwind like that, I'm basically just kind of like supporting as their body does what it wants to do in different ways. It's not so much I'm moving them, it's I'm feeling into the way that their body is trying to move and I'm just supporting it. And sometimes too people will, once their body is familiar enough with the process and how it needs to release in that way, they'll just kind of go off on their own and do their own thing. This is an interesting quote. This is talking about the palpation or the feel of the fascia. The development of one's tactile and proprioceptive senses enhances the feel necessary for the successful completion of these techniques. We are all born with the ability to feel the releases and the direction in which the tissues seem to move from barrier to barrier. They talk about like the fascial barriers. There's different layers that it moves through. So again, this is just kind of letting people know that this is a body system that we all have, that we can all tap into to help our bodies function the best way, to help us work through the things. So we're all capable of tapping into this for ourselves. So it's a very empowering technique. Once you learn it, once you kind of tap into it for yourself, it's like, wow, I didn't even know I could work through this on my own. So there's definitely a benefit of passively receiving it, but there also needs to be an active component of it. You need to actively be doing things between sessions to support your body as a whole, to support the fascial system, to support your body releasing and processing. Because if you just go into a fascial session and you're doing nothing in between, you're not going to see the progress as quickly as you're wanting to see it necessarily. Depends on the person, depends on what's going on. Nothing is ever set in stone with this. Everyone is so different, which is one of the things I really enjoy about working with this type of modality and working with people in this way, because every session is different. Even if I do the exact same hold and the exact same technique on every person, everyone's going to process, everyone's going to release, everyone's going to perceive it and feel it in a different way. Again, the book that I'm referencing is Myofascial Release, The Search for Excellence by John Barnes, PT. So if you have done myofascial release or taken a seminar or you're a myofascial practitioner, you're probably familiar with this book. But yeah, I'm just using it for points of reference because my brain sometimes goes off on little tangents. So this is from chapter 6, My Body Connection. This is a quote. Recent evidence and my experience have demonstrated that embedded in our structure, particularly in the fascial system, lie memories of past events or traumas. These stored emotions can produce lessons in literal or symbolic form from which the patient can discover blocks that may have been hindering his or her improvement. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying about once you start to make connections with where you're holding things in your body, the brain kind of naturally will just go, I understand what this is connected to. I will also say with my experience with myofascial release, I was doing the seminars, I was doing a lot of work on myself, but also at some point I ended up going to therapy. Now I went to trauma-informed therapy, specifically EMDR, and I was getting myofascial release sessions after my therapy sessions. Once you start tapping into that, it's amazing the progress you make. And it's amazing the changes that can happen. A little part of my story is that I discovered that I have something called CPTSD. So basically, that is where in your formative years, the structures and the things that are growing and forming in the brain are not yet solidified. So we're pulling in so much information from our environment that it can really affect the way that our brain forms and functions. So CPTSD is basically like, long term exposure to different traumas. Now, your brain does not distinguish a big trauma and a little trauma. Your brain is just trying to make sure that you are surviving and that everything's good and everything is safe. So your internal attention can be on body functions and things like that. So when we're constantly exposed to environments that our brain perceives as dangerous, there's something that happens with how your nervous system adapts to that over time. Years and years and years of experience or being in an environment that your brain doesn't perceive as safe, as opposed to PTSD, which is like one big event that you're still having repercussions from years, months later, things like that. So this modality has really helped me work through a lot of things, see a lot of patterns and actions that I was doing out of survival mode that I had no clue that I was doing. Some of them I work through and I don't do them anymore. I was definitely on autopilot for a long time. And I think a lot of people are, especially if we are constantly in a fight or flight state. Our bodies are not allowed to get that deep rest and deep release and process the things that it needs to process to move on from. So we're all kind of just walking around with all this stuff and we don't even realize it. It's really interesting. So myofascial release definitely brings a level of conscious awareness to what is going on, not just in your body, but in your everyday life that allows you to kind of take the reins back and make different decisions, make different choices, and make changes, like long-term permanent changes. That is what we would kind of call like the healing journey as we learn about ourselves and learn about different techniques and dive into different modalities that can help us through this. Anything involving somatics, it's going to be beneficial. It's absolutely going to be beneficial. So I mentioned earlier something about I was really fascinated, and even growing up, I was very fascinated by how touch can be such a powerful tool. Around the time that I was, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, my mom started asking me to rub her shoulders, rub her back. She has had a lot of physical trauma in her younger years, and she experienced chronic pain. So just, starting to do that and realizing that I can make somebody feel better just by touching them, that is a wild concept. Today, Western medicine definitely feels like it defaults to pharmaceuticals and surgery. So if someone's coming in, with chronic pain and they're just like, oh, well, it looks like we have to do this procedure for you, or "Oh, you're just going to have to take pain pills for the rest of your life." The amount of power that is in intentional touch is insane. So actually, I think I have a blog on my website called The Power of Intentional Touch. And it really speaks on technique is kind of secondary to intention when it comes to touch. And one of the things I loved about the Barnes seminars is it really talked about getting yourself in the right mindset, getting yourself aligned with the right intention for either yourself, if you're working on yourself, or for your patient or client. And this is something inherent in all human beings. Like we need touch. It's a need. It's not just a luxury. It's not just a, oh, I want to go feel good for a little bit. Positive touch is a absolute need for your mental, emotional, physical well-being. People that are touch deprived, they have issues with immune function. They have issues with mental health. They have chronic pain. It's it's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down when you start looking at how, as humans, we need touch to survive and thrive both. And then when you think about the world that we live in, especially the Western world, how everyone just sort of has this bubble around us and touch becomes almost a taboo. There's a certain level of uncomfortability with touch, at least in America. I know there's other cultures that are a little bit more open with touch, a little bit more welcoming of, strangers connecting, or touch itself is also very important in the development of the brain, like as we grow. So when you're a baby, you cry, you need to be held. You're constantly being touched by caregivers in a nurturing way, hopefully in a nurturing way. And if you aren't, that has been scientifically proven to show developmental issues. So touch itself is such an important part of who we are as humans, and I really think that is time to be a little bit more open with what that looks like for us, or what it could be for us. Another really good reference or resource, and I think I mentioned this in the last interview that I did. I'm I began reading The Body Keeps the Score. And I know there's other books out there, but right now that's just kind of where my attention is. And if this is something that seems like it might be beneficial to you, or you want to learn a little bit more about the mind body connection, that's a really good one to read. So I will link that in the show notes as well. This is another really good quote from John. Therefore, mind body awareness are two sides of the same coin, different aspects of the same spectrum, immutably joined, inseparable, connected, influencing, and communicating constantly. Myofascial release techniques and myofascial unwinding allow for the complete communication necessary for healing and true growth. I believe that the body remembers everything that happened to it. And I most definitely agree. One thing I've experienced with people as they begin to release things is the sensations and the emotions that they experience feel, at least from my perspective and what I'm seeing, feel very old, almost like maybe this was from when you were a year old. Maybe this is from when you were in the womb. Periods of time where you were not capable of using words to describe your experience or to ask for help or to express your discomfort. So sometimes when these things come up in the body, there really are there's no logical connection there. There's no way to express in words what you're feeling. It's about fully feeling what the experience is showing you and observing it, not taking it into your brain and trying to figure out what it is. Just making moments of observation and then allowing it to pass. I know in my personal experience with myofascial release, and I know this has been with other people as well, just hearing different stories, it's definitely an experience of like, it's waves, you know, well, now I'm having this sensation. It kind of peaks a little bit and then it goes away. Well, now I'm having this memory come up. It's going to peak a little bit and then it's going to go away. So if you take that observer standpoint when you are going through this type of therapy, any somatic therapy really, if you take the observer standpoint and just observe the sensations you're feeling, the emotions that are coming up, maybe images, maybe memories, and just kind of stepping back and looking at them from an observer standpoint instead of trying to cling onto those and make them make sense will really help you in letting them go and processing them. There's definitely something about the body needing to feel and experience what we did not allow ourselves to feel and experience in the moment. And this is part of the autonomic nervous system. So there's the sympathetic nervous system, there's the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system will start to enact when there is something happening where we do feel we're in danger, whether it's a car accident, whether it's like we're 4 years old and there's a big dog barking or something like that. When we're not able to remove ourselves from the situation or to find safety, our brains will put us into fight or flight. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, I think are the ones that kind of acknowledge now. And it's a survival mechanism that our brain has that has done a very good job of keeping us alive all these thousands and thousands of years as human beings on the planet. But the issue now is that we don't live in a world that allows our bodies to naturally do what it needs to do to bring us out of that state. It's like we're constantly in survival mode. So one of the things myofascial release really does is it allows our bodies to go into that parasympathetic state where it, it communicates to our brain that we are no longer in danger. We are allowed to come out of that state of protection and we are allowed to feel what we were numbed out from in that moment. So a lot of times the sensations, the feelings, the emotions that come up are just things that we didn't allow ourselves to feel in a moment where our brains in a moment where our brains were perceiving that we were in danger. Because if you have a dog coming at you, you're not going to sit there and go, well, I'm feeling really scared about this. I don't know how I feel about this dog. Oh, this dog has a brown nose. Oh, this dog has pointy ears. Our brains aren't doing that. Our brains are saying, hey, you need to get out of there. So there's part of our brain that's kicked online, but the subconscious mind is taking in all that information, is feeling those things, but that part of ourselves is shut off in those moments. So basically, you get on the table, you are brought into a state of safety, and we're just allowing your body to do what it naturally needs to do to process past the thing, to heal, to stop feeling the pain that it's been feeling, to stop firing on all cylinders. Because also, when we're in fight or flight constantly, these things like our immune system, our digestion, things like that just aren't important because we're in survival mode and we need to survive. We need to get away from the big dog, basically. So overall, myofascial release is a type of somatic body work that really focuses on providing safety for the body as we work through things, allowing the body to process and heal how it needs to without forcing anything, and really supporting if you already have like some sort of wellness routine or holistic practices that you're already doing. It's very supportive of that. I work a lot with people that are actively in mental health counseling as well, because sometimes as you do myofascial release, things come up that it's just kind of out of the scope of practice for most body workers if they don't have, any continuing education in mental health or something like that. So a lot of times doing those supportive things where you do have a space to verbally talk through your experiences and get some guidance on that is really good as well. But again, I really feel like this was a really appropriate topic, appropriate modality to chat about right now, because again, the recent passing of John Barnes, which I know the myofascial community is very much, feeling and mourning that. He did a lot. There in the past 50 years, what he's done, what he's built, and the amount of people that he's touched and educated and influenced positively has just been amazing. And I never had a chance to do a seminar where he was there. I know he was having some health issues around the time I really started getting into myofascial release. So I did not get that privilege or that pleasure to connect with him in that way. But his work has very profoundly affected the direction of my career and what I feel capable of helping people with. So I am very much appreciative to him and his work. So thank you so much for joining me and listening to me talk about myofascial release, which again, it's one of my go-to techniques. I incorporate in all of my bodywork sessions, and this is just one facet of the whole big world of bodywork that there is out there. So as we continue through this Beyond Bodywork series, we're going to be talking about so many different modalities and types of things you can do for your body, and how all of these things can just help you on your wellness journey, on your healing journey. And again, education is just a huge, huge component of finding the right thing that works for you, because sometimes it's not about going in specifically for the modality. It's about like, what mentally am I ready for? What does my body need right now? Does it need myofascial release? Does it need deep tissue? Does it need Thai massage? Does it just need a good Swedish relaxation spa day? Like, what do I really need in the moment? Again, thank you for watching. Please join us for the next episode of Transformative Talks. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to all my socials. Share, like, because that is what is going to help more people be exposed to this sort of thing, is just openly sharing, having discussions. And if you've ever had an experience with myofascial release that you would like to share, or if you are a body worker of some sort, or you have a story you would like to share about your own healing journey, please feel free to contact me, because I would love to have you on the show and connect with you in some way. So until next time, please join us for our next Transformative Talks.